Hello, an update for the HP 2133. Some things have changed. Now, I started this project for some strange reason because I had a bit of an obsession with this machine, which has turned out to be more expensive than it really should have been. What have I done to it? Well, we have replaced the lid, the screen bezel, the screen, most of the keyboard, all of the chassis, and something else is about to be replaced, which I'll go into in more details in a moment. First of all, let's have a general look at it. Apart from the speaker grills having some little bits in them that you don't seem to be able to actually remove without using something very small, it is completely mint now. As I said, obviously you've seen from previous videos, all the base was hanging off, the trackpad and the top plastic was a complete mess, keyboard was a complete mess. But anyway, that aside, it is, well, will be today anyway, finished, and it's cost me way more than it should have done, because I've pretty much built an entire HP 2133 from parts. Now, the keyboard, I did get a replacement. It did eventually come. However, there was random keys that were slightly darker than the rest, and if you tilted the machine in certain lights you could really see it. There was no rhyme or reason to it, it was just random keys were different colours. And all of the keys were slightly skew-if on the keyboard as well. So what I've done is I've taken the good replacement keys from the new keyboard and put them on my old one, because everything at least lines up properly. I've given the old keyboard a good deep clean, all the keys work perfectly, so there we are, that's where we are with that. Now I'm going to turn the machine on. Ideally it would be a good thing to get some power, wouldn't it? Because the battery in this machine, whilst it works, yes, it's not great. So there we are. Trying to do that one-handed was really not a good idea. The machine is running Windows 8.1. Was that a good idea? Probably not, no. However, it works, and it seems to work well. Put in the old password. And eventually, when it feels like it, it should start up. Probably should have removed the password for this video, to be quite honest. Now, why am I running Windows 8 on the machine? Because I can, is the primary reason, I suppose. Updates, etc. And I wanted to see just how far I could push this machine before it either capped out completely or blew up in my face. And as we can see, there is the machine up and running. Whether it's going to run overly well when it's just first started up is another thing. There we are. Windows 8.1. Woohoo! Windows 10 is a major issue. Yes, it will work. Don't expect the video card driver to work at all. How did I get the video card driver working on this when it's not even Windows 7 capable? I ran it in compatibility mode for Windows Vista. Went to the Hewlett-Packard website, downloaded the Windows Vista driver, and ran it in compatibility mode. It is working. The Microsoft Store refuses to open completely. In fact, I'll show you that. It will go to the splash screen and then it will just minimise itself. You can unminimise it and you get this screen constantly. It just flatly refuses to open, as you can see. However, it is still running down there on the taskbar. So if I open it up again, That's all it does. I don't know if that's a bug with the OS, although I do have some updates still to do, so that may rectify itself yet. As the screen has a resolution, I'm going to have to cheat here as well because I keep forgetting, has a resolution of 1280 by 768. Opening Windows apps on this is not an issue. Getting them to run well, however, is another thing. Which leads me on to my final and probably stupidest modification that's going to be done to this machine. And that stupid modification is, I have another motherboard for it. Yeah. Not just any motherboard, it's still the same motherboard with the same processor. But instead of a 1.2 gig single core processor, again, the replacement is a single core processor, but it's a 1.6 gig via C7. And I'm hoping that 400 megahertz is going to make a small difference, because I don't think I'm going to be able to do this one-handed. So please excuse the strange camera angle here. The CPU has a nasty tendency of running at 100% constantly. If it's going to open up here. There we are. So as you can see on the task manager, 99%, pretty much permanently, which is not good. Now, I've done a lot in order to try and reduce that, in terms of turning off various services, turning off the Windows search function, turning off all of the system effects. Excuse me. For example, if you right click on my computer, or as they now call it, this PC, although it will be being renamed, you go to properties, advanced system settings, eventually, anyway, there we are, advanced tab, settings for performance. The only thing that I have left on is smooth the edges of screen fonts, because otherwise it looks absolutely bloody awful to try and read, and show thumbnails instead of icons, because I like to be able to see what's in a folder before opening it. Personal preference. Other than that, everything else is turned off, and as you can see, I mean, really, with everything else turned off, it doesn't affect how Windows actually looks, to be quite honest. I mean, there is a few visual effects, like the smoothing of opening and closing things, and so all of that is irrelevant. It's eye candy that, to be quite honest, most people don't even realise is there anyway. So it's irrelevant. As for services, I'm not going to bother showing you that, because it's, oh well, I suppose I could. Open up run services.msc, and again, eventually when it decides it's actually going to do it, startup type automatic. See, there is a lot that I've had to leave on. I mean, you don't want to be turning off things like plug and play, super fetch, wireless LAN auto config. You know, you want to be keeping things like that on. As for disabled services and services set to manual, it's basically, I'd say, just over 2/3 of the list, because there's a lot of stuff that I personally just don't need, especially on a machine with such low specifications as well. As for gaming performance, benchmarks, etc., honestly, there is no point. I'm not going to be bothering to load up like 3D Mark or Valley or anything like that. This machine probably won't even run them, to be quite honest. This is not a machine for gaming in any way, shape or form, to be quite honest. The video card seems capable of basic 3D acceleration, but otherwise it's not doing a lot else. I would say if you want a game on this, you would be restricted to games up to the Windows XP era, but I wouldn't go too far into the XP era, and emulators, NES, SNES, Mega Drive for everybody outside the UK, I suppose, / Genesis. I am trying to run a Psp Emulator. I haven't actually got round to configuring it and seeing if it'll work yet, but I'm fairly confident that that should work. I mean, it's not really the most intensive of things, and you get a couple of nice little 3D games out of it. On this sort of screen size as well, I think they'd actually look alright, but we'll see what happens with that later. We'll open up Ada64, and I'll show you what the current temperature is. Now, this machine's been on for, well, how long's this video been going on for? Nearly 10 minutes or so, and we'll have a little look at what sort of temperatures we're dealing with on the CPU side of things. The CPU, bearing in mind she's currently doing absolutely nothing at all, is a rather healthy 48 degrees actually. That's interesting. Now, normally when actually doing things, opening up a web browser, etc., it's not unusual for this CPU to be sat running around the 60 °C mark. It's moderately warm, so yeah. As a special treat though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, do one of my fantastic jump cuts, and we'll take a look at the new motherboard so you can see what actually powers this thing without me having to completely strip it on camera. So I shall be back momentarily. And we're back. Right. This was interesting. This box that the motherboard has come in is branded with all the same part numbers as this motherboard. This motherboard was sealed. This motherboard looks like brand spanking new. I don't actually... The seller did say he thought I would be pleased with it, because I said I wanted one that was as clean as possible, and I would go to the extent of saying I think he's provided me with a brand spanking new spare part. That is far, far too clean. The light's probably not going to pick this up, but I'm going to try anyway. If you have a look at the fans, the fan, look at it. It's like brand spanking new. And I am, in fact, this is a brand new motherboard. Well, well, well. I'm confident enough to say this is a brand new board. That's just awesome. See, I've had a lot of troubles with components from eBay and whatever else, so I'm staying very skeptical. I could put this in and it's completely dead. I've had a lot of bad experiences, but that looks like a brand spanking new board. So for anyone who can't be bothered to go back and look at the previous videos and has stumbled across this one, or for anyone who just wants to have a good look at it up close with a much better camera, then here you go. Now's your opportunity. I'll do a quick scan over the board when my camera decides it's actually going to sort itself out. And you get to see in detail, up close and personal, what one of these boards actually looks like. Now, for anybody who owns one of these machines or is thinking about owning one, first of all, do yourself a favour, get a clean one from the get-go. Don't do what I did, find one cheap, then sit and replace absolutely every single bloody part, to the point where now, with this motherboard, the only original parts from the original machine that I purchased is half the keyboard, the battery, and the charger. I kid you not, that's it. Oh, no, wait a minute. No, the memory module that's going to go in here is from the original machine, as will be the serial ATA cable that connects to the board. That's it. Effectively, I've built one from scratch, which is kind of stupid, really. But hey ho, we live and learn. And to be quite honest, anybody who's thinking about buying a HP 2133 in specifically, anyway, They are really interesting little things. If you're very into strange hardware, definitely get one. If you like your music as well, I would suggest them. Here is the riser for the daughter board for the audio amplifier. That little audio amplifier is absolutely fantastic. It really is. I need to rip the machine open and see exactly what that is. When I find a part number, I'll put it in the description and you guys can all look at it and either laugh at me because I don't know what I'm talking about. When it comes to audio, no, I probably don't know what I'm talking about, to be quite honest. But in real world applications, it sounds really, really good. I can definitely see why this netbook was so much more expensive than the average netbook around the time. The level of build quality on this is exceptional. The materials used have been absolutely, they're so nice, they really are. Overall performance is not good. They had to scrimp somewhere, so they used the VIA processor and chipset. However, without bashing VIA too much, it does work. I mean, the machine is running Windows 8.1. It wasn't really meant to run anything beyond Windows XP. It ran Windows 7 pretty much flawlessly, so I can't really argue with it. I'm pushing it to run Windows 8. It is a nice little machine. One of the other upgrades that I forgot to mention was, you'll see the big gap here for the hard drive. I'm not using the 120 gig mechanical drive that came with the machine. I'm using a 128 gig KingFast SSD. I'm just looking in my box of tricks now to see if I can actually find my box. Yes, I can. That's what we're using. No, it's not the greatest SSD in the world by any means at all, but it works, it does the job. It is using Samsung controller and whatnot, because yeah, I have opened it, I have had a good look. Some of the, I mean, it is a Chinese drive, so, but here you go. Some of the features include true speed, 3 years warranty, stability, long life. But other than that, I mean, it is what you expect, to be quite honest. I mean, it's a 120 gig SSD that cost me in UK, so you feel free to go and convert it into your own currency. I'm not going to sit here and do that for you, otherwise I'll be here all day. It cost me £29 with free delivery as well. So even if it craps out in a year's time or something, £30 at this present moment in time, early 2016, it's not too bad, I suppose. I'm not going to throw in you know, a 512 gig enterprise class SSD in this damn thing. It isn't worth it. But having this cheapo SSD, yeah, okay, the machine itself is serial 80A2 and this is serial 80A3, so it's not running at its full potential anyway. But regardless, even if it is bottlenecked, it's still running a crap load faster than the mechanical drive would. Therefore, I consider that to be a win. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to end the video. Thank you all very much for watching in my usual way, and I'm going to fit this motherboard and see how I get on. I may do future updates in regards to this netbook because it's a machine I have no intention of selling. It would be not cost effective if I did sell it, because there's no way in hell I would get any of my money back on what I've spent out on this thing. So regardless, I'm going to be keeping the machine anyway. At least now I can say, well, I've got one that's super clean and it's got the top end VIA processor in there now. And with this being a brand new motherboard, I'm hoping that this cures a quirk that my machine has. I bought a new RTC battery for it and it still won't hold the date and time. Yeah, work that out. I've checked the connectors from the battery, because it's one of these batteries where, I don't want to touch this too much with bare hands, it's one of these small really thin button cells that are connected over a wire. In fact, can I put the motherboard down? Yes, I can. Yeah, so the cable's looping back this way into that plug, and it's fine. Apart from the fact that it doesn't work, but on my motherboard, it's fine. There's no reason why it shouldn't work, but it's flatly refusing to work. So it is what it is. Hopefully, this should cure the situation, and with an extra 400 megahertz. That's one other thing before I finish this video. The 1.6 gig version of the VIA C7M is overclockable. There's some trickery behind it. I need to do a little bit more research yet. The 1.2 gig is totally locked. There's nothing you can do at all. There's no form of trickery or anything that you can do to make that any faster. The 1.6 gig though, I'm finding a lot of things online. There's a lot of cached forum pages and things as well, because obviously, you know, it is old now in terms of technology anyway. But it seems that it is very, very, very possible to overclock this to 2 gigahertz. What that's going to do for temperatures, I have no idea. What that's going to do for stability, again, I have no idea. I don't think really I should push it that far. I think that's perhaps going a little bit too far, but I will certainly look into it. And if I could get a small overclock on it, 1.7, 1.8 gig, may be interesting, but I'll definitely need to check them temperatures, because as you saw from the machine doing nothing and sitting idling with the current board that it's got, which may or may not have a problem, we're almost at 50 degrees Celsius idle. That isn't good, and it doesn't make for a good candidate for overclocking either. So we'll see what happens there. So thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, comment, etc. And I will catch you all in the next video, whatever that may be.